Welcome back to the Altar of Madness. This will be my second video discussing the sci-fi series Babylon 5 from the 90s. I'm going to try and sum up as quickly as I can Season 1 and Season 2. There are, let's see, 22 episodes in Season 1. Some of them are episodic episodes. The major plot that I mentioned before doesn't really come until later, but there are aspects, like I said, that are hinted at. The coming darkness is talked about a lot. In the first season, there are a few things that are touched upon. The Psychor has a big element in an episode called Mind War, which they could have done more with that, but they didn't. That's actually the episode where Sigma 957 is surveyed by, at the time, the captain's girlfriend, soon-to-be wife, and she doesn't know that what's out there, and Jakar explains, that there are things out there that are unexplainable, and there's a good analogy that we're like ants to these creatures, and so that's really the first introduction to the first ones, but you don't even know what the first ones are. The whole idea behind Season 1, the big mystery behind Sinclair as the captain, and why he fought in the Battle of the Line against the Minbari and survived, and they decided to make him captain of the 5th station, Babylon 5, after the 4 other stations were destroyed. Babylon Squared is an episode in Season 1 where it, like I said, it comes back and you don't understand, but once you get to Season 3, it all comes full circle and it all makes sense. But basically what Season 1 deals with, a lot of hinting at what's to come, that there is a coming darkness. What is this darkness? What do the Vorlons look like? Kosh, what is he? They introduced the planet that, the nearby planet. It's Epsilon 3, and there's a caretaker there, and there's a vast amount of knowledge, and that planet, the sentient being within that planet has the knowledge and is able to telepathically, remote viewing, almost like he can project himself anywhere, and there's a lot of knowledge there in that planet, and it can be used to an advantage, and it does, and it is used later. Then you have, the Quality of Mercy, the episode where basically there's a device that's introduced that can give life back to another person who's dead or dying, but to give that person back their life, the other person has to die. And that is a device that is later used in Season 4, sadly enough, but it's introduced in Season 1. The Narn and the Centauri, of course, they've been at war, or have been at war for years, and they're trying to keep the peace. But there's this character named Mr. Morton who works for the Shadows, and he actually comes on board in this season and meets with Londo, and he asks, later on he'll ask the question, what do you want? And that's the question the Shadows always ask. The Vorlons ask, who are you? And those are the two really important questions. So Londo takes care of this problem and destroys this entire Narn outpost with the help of Morden, who he doesn't know how it happens that the shadows destroy it easily. And the shadow ships are amazing. They are spider-like in design, and in each shadow vessel, which this is important later on, there's a person, it could be a telepath, mainly telepaths are used to as hosts in the vessels, and they're automated. They don't have any control, but the machine. It's explained later in another season. The Narn Outpost, Quadrant 37, major problem for the Centauri, and is destroyed by the shadows, and Jakar wants to know what happened. So he goes to look and find out what happened to that outpost, and later finds out that the darkness has returned. He knows, and Delenn knows, because when Morden comes aboard and he asks everybody, the question later on, she can sense the darkness within him. The 22nd episode, the final episode, Chrysalis, is very important. It's a cliffhanger episode. Basically what happens in Chrysalis, Delenn, the Minbari ambassador, decides basically to undergo this transformation to bridge the gap between the humans and the Minbari, and she becomes part human. She uses this device, actually. Another thing that happens in this episode, President Clark, he is sworn in. He's vice president, but President Santiago is going to be sworn in as president of the Earth Alliance, and his ship is destroyed. It's a conspiracy. You don't find out exactly what causes that, but until later. But the shadows are involved. Morden is involved. The President Clark is completely a pawn of the shadows, along with Psychor. They're all involved, and this is in order to make Clark president, because he wants to be president. It's kind of mimicking the whole LBJ JFK assassination plot. Okay, so someone within Garibaldi, the chief security's ranks, shoots him in the back and he's paralyzed. So when that episode ends, Sinclair goes back to Earth. He's sent back to Earth on a mission, and we don't know what's going on with him until later. And now Clark is president, and this big tragic event has happened, and Sinclair goes to Delenn because Delenn has something to tell him, and he's too late. When he gets to see her, she's in her cocoon. She's in her cocoon for a while, until she eventually leaves the cocoon later on to have hair and look a lot hotter. No, she's awesome. And so that's that. The darkness is returning, and it hasn't returned yet, but it will. And season 2 sparks that, the beginning of that, because Jakar wants to know what happened to Quadrant 37. He knows the Centauri couldn't have done it by themselves. They had to have outside help, obviously. Second season starts. There's a new captain, John Sheridan. Great captain. Great actor, Bruce Boxleitner. So that's kind of his introduction. The Minbari don't like him because he destroyed the Black Star, one of their flagships. He mined. There's a minefield, and he destroyed. The Black Star was a trick. Kind of an interesting maneuver that they did not expect a bomb to go off and in the minefield or whatever. So that's his introduction. They don't really like him, but the end of the Minbari War, we don't know why it ended until Sheridan finds out in that episode or something. It's very vague, but at the same time, it's like, okay, so they supposedly found out when they got Sinclair that he's Minbari, not born of Minbari, that whenever a human dies, their soul is becoming a Minbari, but they're one and the same, basically, that they're killing themselves in a sense. So season 2, that's how season 2 starts. There are these people called the Technomages that show up, and they use technology as magic. It looks like magic, but it's actually technology, and they are a group, kind of like a small sect, a group, a cult almost, of their own. And so they flee to the outer reaches of the rim of space to avoid the coming darkness, and you don't know what this coming darkness is. And the coming darkness is the shadows, which I had mentioned before. This is very kind of Lord of the Rings-ish, the coming of Sauron. Then you have the Long Dark. It's another episode where this creature comes aboard. It's awakened. It's on a ship, and it's headed towards Zaha Doom. And it's not a shadow. It is a shadow servant. And this isn't quite explained completely, but that's exactly what it is. It's a shadow servant. And they don't understand why it's going to Zaha Doom, but it is destroyed. It is killed. It is not allowed to go to Zaha Doom. Things that happen in season 2 that are very important. Alfred Bester, the Psychop, the main Psychop, you may know him as Chekhov from the original Star Trek. He is a reoccurring character, very good character, a guy you like to hate. So he's there, and there's an underground railroad of telepaths that do not want to be part of the Psi Corps because the Psi Corps is evil, and they drug you if you don't submit to them and become a Psychop and do their bidding. So there's Underground Railroad, and Dr. Stephen Franklin, he is helping them out there. The biggest episode of season 2, I would say The Coming of Shadows, and that was nominated for something. It was a really great episode. The Centauri emperor of the time, who eventually dies, he comes in a peaceful manner to talk to the Narns, to Jakar and the Narns, and make peace. And Jakar sees him coming, and he wants to kill him. He's ready to kill this guy. And right before he kills him, the guy has a heart attack. So, I mean, that's really ironic. And then Garibaldi discovers a group called the Rangers. And the Rangers are a group of people that wear an emblem, and they are human and Minbari and other races that have joined together, and they know about the shadows. So at this point, Garibaldi knows about the Rangers. A few more episodic episodes, but there's some episodes. The episodes, they still deal with other things, like Delenn and the Grey Council. The Grey Council being this council that there's the Minbari have a religious caste, and the warrior caste, and the worker caste. They show up quite a bit. And Now for a Word is a really good episode. It does it in a kind of a different outlook. Like it's not an episodic type of episode in the sense that it's a normal episode. It's filmed in a newsreel type thing. So you kind of see, like, you know, ISN is the propaganda outlet for the Earth Alliance. So you can kind of see how ISN puts a spin on things, and they talk about the Narn and the Centauri War, and it's like a documentary type episode, but the way they spin it is completely false, because the Earth Alliance ends up siding with the Centauri instead of the Narn, which is really which is obvious, because the Earth Alliance and Clark are in league with the Shadows, in the shadow of Zahha-Doom. Okay, and this is where Morden takes center stage, because, okay, Sheridan's wife died on an expedition to Zahha-Doom with Morden and a few other people, and she died, supposedly, and here Morden is alive. So Sheridan's wondering, what? My wife is dead, and you're sitting right here. He interrogates Morden until the point to where, like, he has to let him go. He has to let Morden go, because if he doesn't, the entire station, everyone is at risk. Morden is an asset of the Shadows, and he can't let Morden know that he knows. That he knows about the Shadows. He has to keep that under wraps. Kosh kind of counsels him, the Vorlon, to let him go. To Lynn, this is when they let him in on the big secret that the darkness is coming, and that they're not ready, and that you need to let Morden go. He's evil, and we'll deal with him later. But the time is not now. And they explain the Shadow War to Sheridan, and they explain the first ones, all about, what's to come. Lita Alexander, she was from the pilot episode of The Gathering, and she had a small part, and she has a connection with Kosh. She has a very close relationship with the Vorlon, and she is running from the Psi Corps. She has had her abilities enhanced. She's much more powerful, even more powerful than she knows, due to her influence by Kosh, by the Vorlons, which we later kind of find out that Vorlons have created telepaths, because telepaths are deadly against shadow vessels, which is later discovered. Talia Winters is another Psychop, and she left the show a bit early, which is unfortunate. She had something, kind of a mind control thing. She was not herself. She was a sleeper agent, I guess you could say. Ivanova, second in command, she is a latent telepath. She's afraid that she might be the sleeper agent. Her mother was on the sleepers. She was not part of the Psi Corps, and she later died. They killed her or whatnot, but they tortured her, and so Ivanova is a latent telepath, not very powerful, but she's afraid she's a sleeper agent. It ends up being Talia. Talia and Ivanova have a relationship. I wouldn't say it's a lesbian relationship, whatever, but they're close, and so that's really kind of how that episode goes. You don't know who is the sleeper agent, but it ends up being Talia, and it's kind of a way for her to leave the show. I liked her, but I mean, they had more plans for her character. I think she would have been what Lita Alexander is or was. The Long Twilight Struggle, great episode, great episode. The Long Twilight Struggle. This is the episode. This is the Centauri using mass drivers on the Narn homeworld, aided by the shadows. The Narn are tricked to send their forces away, the security guarding their entire planet of the Narn homeworld away to attack, I believe the Centauri somewhere else, and so they're tricked, and bam, mass drivers, illegal to use, and with the aid of the shadows, they annihilate and bombard the Narn home planet and successfully basically annihilate almost everybody. Some Narns survive, but it's nuts. It's a really pivotal episode. What does Jakar do? We later find out, but Morden, when he came and he asked, what do you want? And of course, Londo said, I want to see, my enemies crushed between my feet. I want to see my empire, the Centauri Empire, rise to what it once was, and that's what he gets. He gets what he wants. You ask what you want, you get what you want. Jakar didn't really have that strong of a response, but Londo really was out for blood, and he got it. And so. And Delenn, of course, saw the darkness and said, "Get the fuck out of my way." Veer Koto, Londo's, his aide. His response was awesome. I can't really say it exactly like he said it, but he said, "I want to live just long enough until I see the day that your head is cut off and stuck on a pike, as a warning to the future generations." It's a great epic line. The way he gave that dialogue was hilarious. And does that come to pass? Well, maybe I'll have to explain that in another video. But the way he said it, great. And he said, when I see, I'll look up into your lifeless eyes and I'll wave like this. Veer is his story arc, like his character arc and his story, is really well done. In the next episode comes the Inquisitor. The Inquisitor comes, and he is basically the Morden of the Warlons. He has a cane that he walks with, but he shocks. His collar puts collar on, shocks and tortures Delenn and Sheridan. And he asks, "Who are you? Who are you?" Basically, do you have a destiny? Are you anybody? Are you anybody special? Or are you just some, or how do we know you're the one that's going to end the Shadow War? Who are you? Who are you? So they end up passing his little test, and you find out that this guy was abducted by the Warlons years and years and years ago. And his name was once Jack. He will be only known as Jack the Ripper. Pretty cool throwback to history there. And so that was his service to the Warlons, and he said he could finally rest after that. That was his mission, to find the ones that would end the Shadow War, or that would be at the command of defeating them in the next Great War. The final episode of the season, though, the Fall of Night. Okay, Sheridan has to give sanctuary. Of course, he gives sanctuary to Jakar. Comes to him for sanctuary. He can't go back to his home world. He will be killed. He will be, tortured and killed and maimed. And so he asks for sanctuary. Jakar does, and Londo is they have this council meeting, and Londo's like, I want Jakar out of here. I want him to leave. I don't want him to represent the Narn at any of these meetings anymore. And he's really, evil, like the way he expresses himself. He's very harsh and cruel. And Jakar gives this epic speech about how, we'll be free once again. You can't keep a population under control as slaves forever. One day we will be free. And his speech, oh man, late Andrews, man, he was great. He had done several plays and stuff like that, but he is a great actor, and that was one of the most pivotal moments for him. But he was granted Sanctuary, so when the Narn ship comes to Babylon 5 for Sanctuary, it's a warship, and Earth Force attempts to say no, don't do that, and he's like, hey, I granted him Sanctuary. So what does Sheridan do? Sheridan fires upon his own people to protect the Narn ship. Sheridan has to give his apology. He doesn't really want to give an apology because he gave Sanctuary. He gave his word. So he has to apologize. He gets on this shuttle high above the air, and he's sitting there, he's waiting, he's going to give his apology, and there's some Centauri there, and they detonate a bomb, and he has to jump out. He has to get the hell out, and he jumps, and he falls to his death. No, he doesn't fall to his death, but he's going to fall to his death. And then there's only one thing that can save him. Like, you're like, oh, he's going to die, but no, like, Delenn looks over at Kosh and says, you have to do something. You have to save him. And so Kosh opens up his encounter suit, comes out as an angel, and like I said, all these races see him as their own angelic entity of their own race. And Kosh flies up and catches him and brings him down, and he's a being of light, which is how he's, kind of manipulated the races to see Vorlons as. And so that's how the episode ends. You get to see Kosh, you get to see kind of what he looks like. That's not his true form, but that's how the episode ends. And it's a very, very, very good episode. When I saw the episode, I was like, wow, that is really cool. The Earth Alliance side with the Centauri, and they sign a non-aggression pact with the aggressors, with the Centauri, with the ones that have openly declared war. The Earth Alliance. So the Earth Alliance and the Centauri and the Shadows and the Psy-Corps are all together, albeit separate, but still all kind of together. And they have their ISN propaganda, and the guy that shot Garibaldi in the back, Night Watch. There's this group called Night Watch, which is, this is pre-9/11. This is Patriot Act. This is, you see something, say something. I think that's even a line in the episode. And so they step things up in this episode. And at the end of this episode, anyone that questions the authority will be shut down. So it ends on an interesting note. It's definitely a transition, and the next season just picks up from there. And there's this guy Keffer. He's looking for this ghost. He's a fighter pilot. He flies out into hyperspace, and he's looking for the ghost. And they're talking about this ghost. What is this ghost? This ghost, it's a shadow vessel. They don't know what it is, and so he records it and sends this crystal back that they recover that shows him getting killed while he finds the ghost shadow ship. So when the next season opens up, basically what's going to happen This guy from Earth Alliance is going to come and ask, do you know anything about this shadow? He doesn't call it a shadow vessel, but he's like, have you seen something like this? This thing is very powerful. This thing could pose a threat. With Earth Alliance, they know exactly what it is. They're looking to find out who knows. Who knows about them. So that's where we'll pick up with Season 3. I went on about Season 1 and 2. Season 3 is going to be its own video because that season is epic as hell. And so you can see how Season 1 and Season 2 connect, and that's basically it. The Centauri are on the warpath, conquering neighboring worlds, destroyed Narn, declared war, and Earth Alliance is right behind them. And the shadows are there helping in the shadows. This has been another episode of the Altar of Madness, covering Babylon 5.
What the hell am I looking at? When does this happen in the movie?
Now. You're looking at now, sir. Everything that happens now is happening now.
What happened to then?
We passed then.
When?
Just now. We're at now.
Go back to then.
When?
Now.
Now?
Now.
I can't.
Why?
We missed it.
When?
Just now.
When will then be now?
Soon.